The market of chains was louder than thunder, a place where voices rose like storms and lives were sold like broken tools. Cages lined both sides of the wide square, filled with beings from different worlds. Some were strong, some weak, some too tired to stand. All of them had one thing in common: they were for sale. The auctioneer's voice cracked through the air, calling out prices with no mercy. His hand waved at a tall alien male with broad shoulders. The crowd shouted their offers, coins clinked, papers rustled. Every sale was quick. Every life carried away like cattle. In the corner, behind a cage darker than the rest, sat a girl who did not look up. Her skin, once a soft shade of silver, was scarred with lines of pain. Her hair hung like tangled threads, and her eyes stared at the ground as if afraid to see the world. Traders laughed when they passed her cage. They called her worthless, damaged, too difficult. They said no buyer would waste money on her. The auctioneer tried anyway, raising his voice. "Here we have a young one, alien-born strong blood. Who will start the bidding?" His words fell into silence. The crowd shifted, but no one moved forward. A man in the back snorted and said, "Not worth a single coin." Another laughed. "You'd pay more for a broken chair than for her." The girl did not flinch. She had heard these words too many times. They cut her once, but now they only made her colder. She sat with her knees pulled to her chest, her arms wrapped around herself, waiting for the sale to pass her by. If she was not chosen, she knew what would happen. The traders would drag her back to the cages and leave her there until she broke completely. But that day, something different happened. A figure stepped into the square, moving with slow steps. His clothes were simple, his face shadowed by a hood. He was human. The traders stopped and stared. Humans rarely came to these places, and when they did, it was never to buy slaves. The man walked past the cages, his eyes moving from one to another. He did not shout. He did not laugh. He did not bargain. His gaze finally landed on the dark corner where the silver-skinned girl sat. The crowd noticed, whispers rose. "Why is he looking there? Does he not see she is broken?" The auctioneer tried to sound cheerful. "Ah, sir, not that one. Damaged goods, let me show you better stock. Strong males, trained fighters, good workers." But the human did not move. He kept his eyes on the girl. His silence made the traders uneasy. The girl slowly raised her head. Her eyes met his. For the first time in years, she saw no greed, no disgust. His gaze was steady, calm, almost gentle. It was like a hand reaching through the bars. Without moving, she blinked, unsure if it was real or another cruel trick. The auctioneer grew nervous. "Sir, this one, she will cause you trouble. She is too difficult. She was returned twice already. We were going to throw her back into the mines." The traders laughed again, clapping their hands as if her life was nothing, but the human finally spoke. His voice was quiet, almost soft. "I will take her." The square fell silent. The laughter stopped. The air itself seemed to freeze. The auctioneer stared at him as if he had gone mad. You want her?" The girl's chest tightened. Her heart beat too fast. She had learned not to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope always led to more pain. Yet something in his words lit a spark inside her. Small, fragile, but alive. Coins changed hands. The deal was made. The traders shrugged, happy to be rid of what they called trash. The auctioneer muttered under his breath, "A fool's choice." But no one argued. The cage door creaked open. The girl stayed still. She could not move. Her legs felt heavy like stone. Then she saw it. A hand stretched out toward her, rough, scarred, human. It did not command. It did not force. It waited. Her fingers shook. Her mind screamed not to trust. But her heart, tired and broken, wanted to believe just once. She reached out slowly. Her hand touched his. Warmth spread through her cold skin. Her breath caught. The market watched, silent and stunned. The human closed his fingers around hers, firm but gentle. And for the first time, she stood not because she was ordered, but because someone wanted her to. No one desired her. No one cared. No one even looked twice. But that day in the broken auction, a human reached out his hand, and everything began to change. The market square faded behind them, but the girl's mind was still trapped there. Each step she took was heavy, her bare feet scraping the dusty road. The chains around her ankles had been cut, yet she still walked as if they were there. Her eyes kept lowering, afraid to meet the world, afraid this strange kindness would vanish. Like smoke, the human walked beside her, silent but steady. His hand never left hers, as if he knew that if he let go, she might fall and never rise again. His grip was not crushing, not cruel. It was a grip of support, of promise, something she had never known. The crowd behind whispered, their voices chasing them like ghosts. Why him? Why her? Foolish human, the traders mocked, calling him mad for wasting coin. But he did not answer. His silence was stronger than their laughter. They reached a quieter street, the noise of the auction growing distant. The girl dared to glance at him. His face was plain, not a warrior's, not a lord's. His eyes carried lines of weariness, but also something else. Patience. Warmth. She whispered, her voice cracked and unused. Why? Me? The words almost hurt her throat. It had been years since she had spoken freely. She expected him to ignore her, or worse, to laugh. But he answered gently, because no one else did. Her chest tightened. The simple words struck her like thunder. She wanted to believe them, but doubt pressed against her heart. She had been told too many times she was broken, too many times she was useless. Could it really be that this one human saw something different? Her legs trembled. She stumbled, nearly falling, but his arm moved quickly, steadying her. He did not scold, did not push her forward. He just helped her stand straight again. Her eyes filled with water, though she tried to hold it back. They passed an old fountain in the center of the street. The human stopped, pulling out a small flask of water. He offered it to her. She froze, staring. Her throat burned with thirst, yet she was afraid it was a trick, afraid the kindness would turn into cruelty. But his eyes stayed soft. His hand waited. She slowly reached out, trembling, and took the flask. The water touched her lips, cool and sharp. Her body shivered. It was the sweetest taste she remembered. Tears rolled down her cheeks without permission. He watched quietly, not mocking, not questioning. He simply let her drink. When she handed it back, her voice was smaller, almost a whisper. I am not worth this. Her words fell heavy in the air. The human shook his head. His voice was calm. You are worth more than they ever told you. She blinked, her heart twisting. She had never heard such words spoken for her. They felt like light cutting through endless darkness, but shadows still followed. From the alleys came eyes watching. Shapes moved quietly. Hunters, traders who had lost their sale. They whispered about taking her back, about punishing the human for his foolish choice. She sensed them. Her body, tensing with fear, the human noticed too. His hand squeezed hers, giving silent courage. Stay close, he murmured. His other hand rested near his belt, ready if danger came. He was no great soldier, no armored knight, but he carried himself with a quiet resolve that was stronger than blades. The girl looked at him again. Her mind battled with itself. One side screamed that no one ever helped her without a price. The other side whispered that maybe, just maybe, this time was different. She felt the warmth of his hand and dared to hope. They reached a broken inn at the edge of the road. Its wooden door creaked as he pushed it open. Dust hung in the air, but it was shelter. Inside. He guided her to a seat, bringing food from his pack. Simple bread, nothing special, but her eyes widened as if it were treasure. He broke the bread in half and gave her the larger piece. She stared, unable to believe. In her past, she had always been the one given scraps, yet here a stranger gave her more. Her voice cracked again. Why do you give to me? He looked at her with a small smile. Because you need it more. She ate slowly, every bite strange and new. Her body weak, her heart confused. Every act of kindness felt like a wound she did not know how to heal. She whispered, almost, afraid of the answer. Will you sell me too? His eyes grew firm. He shook his head. No. His voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. I will not sell you. I will not throw you away. Her hands shook. The bread almost slipped from her grasp. She could not understand, could not believe. The world had only shown her chains, but this human, he gave her something else, something fragile, something powerful. He gave her choice. In the silence of that broken inn, with only dust and shadows around them, the girl felt her chest warm for the first time in years. The hand that had reached for her in the market was still there, steady and waiting, and deep inside she wondered, dared, if she could one day take it fully and never let go. The night crept in, covering the streets like a dark blanket. The girl sat near the broken table of the old inn, her body weak but her mind restless. She could not shake the feeling that eyes still followed her, shadows whispering from every corner. The human sat by the window, silent, watching the road outside. He had not spoken much since they entered. His hand rested near his belt, where a small weapon was hidden. He was not relaxed. His body was tense, ready. The girl hugged her. Knees trembling, she whispered, "They will come. They always come back." Her voice cracked, filled with the weight of old memories. She knew how traitors worked. They did not let their property escape so easily. The human turned his head toward her, his eyes calm but firm. "Then we will not stay here." His words carried no fear, only decision. He stood, gathered his pack, and held out his hand again. That same hand she had taken in the market, steady and waiting. Her breath shook. She hesitated. But then her fingers slowly touched his again. The warmth spread through her. She rose, leaning on his strength. Together, they stepped out into the cold night. The town was quieter now, most traders sleeping, but danger still lingered. The human led her through narrow alleys, moving with careful steps, his senses sharp. He knew they were being hunted. The girl clung to him, her eyes darting into the shadows. Behind them, faint footsteps echoed. A low whistle carried through the dark. The hunters were close. The girl's chest tightened, her body froze in fear. She whispered, "They will catch us. They always catch." Me, the human stopped, turning to face her, his grip on her hand firm. "Not this time." His voice was low, certain. The certainty in his tone made her heart tremble. For the first time she wanted to believe. They moved faster, slipping between broken stalls and empty carts. The moonlight fell on the cobblestones, painting silver, lines that seemed to guide them. Every sound around them felt louder. The bark of a stray dog, the creak of a shutter, the crunch of gravel beneath their feet. Suddenly a shadow moved ahead, blocking their path. Another hunter stepped out of the darkness. His eyes glowed faintly, his weapon raised. "Hand her over." The voice growled, "She is not yours." The girl gasped, clinging tighter to the human's arm. Her body shook as memories of cages and chains filled her mind. She whispered, "Leave me. Save yourself." Her voice was broken, pleading, but the human stepped in front of her, shielding her with his own body, his voice steady, sharp as steel. "She is not yours either." The hunter snarled, but before he could move, the human acted. A flash of movement, quick and precise, his weapon struck, forcing the hunter back into the shadows. The girl's eyes widened. She had not expected him to fight for her. She had not expected anyone to risk themselves. "Run," he whispered, pulling her forward. They dashed through the street, their footsteps echoing against the stone walls. Behind them, more voices shouted, hunters giving chase. The alleys twisted like a maze, but the human seemed to know the way. He led her through broken arches, across narrow bridges, into places so dark the stars above vanished. The girl's breath came fast, her chest burning. Yet his hand never let go, never loosened. They stopped for a moment under an old stone archway, his chest rising and falling. He looked at her, his voice low. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, though her legs trembled. Her heart was pounding too hard, she whispered. Why do they want me back? I am nothing. Her voice was full of confusion, pain. The human's eyes studied her scars, the strange marks that ran across her skin. His brow furrowed. He spoke carefully. Maybe you are not nothing. Maybe you are something they fear. Or something they need. Her stomach turned at his words. Memories stirred. Whispers in the dark cells, experiments, lights cutting into her flesh. She remembered voices calling her unstable, dangerous, different. She remembered being left behind when others were sold, not because she was weak, but because she carried something inside her, something even her captors did not understand. Fear filled her again, her voice cracked. If they know, if you know, will you leave me too? Her eyes searched his face, desperate, terrified. He shook his head firmly. His hand squeezed hers. No, I will not leave you. His voice was calm, steady, like a promise carved into stone. Before she could answer, another sound cut through. The night, the low hum of engines. Shadows moved across the rooftops. Ships hovered, their lights sweeping the streets. The hunters had called for more help. The human pulled her close, his voice urgent. We must keep moving. Together they slipped into another alley, the darkness wrapping around them like a cloak. The noise of the hunters grew louder, but they did not stop. Every step was a battle, every corner a risk. But the girl felt something new inside her, something fragile but growing. For the first time, she was not running alone. For the first time, someone ran beside her, someone who would not let her fall. And in the shadows of that night, chased by enemies who wanted to drag her back into chains, she held his hand tighter. In that grip was hope, in that grip was freedom. The hunters were close. The danger was real, but for the first time in her broken life, she believed they had a chance. The night air was cold as they left the twisting alleys behind. The human led her across a broken path toward the ruins of an old outpost. Its walls leaned like tired giants and the roof was torn, but it was shelter. For now it was enough. He pushed open the rusted door. Guiding her inside, dust rose in clouds. The place smelled of old metal and ash. Long tables were broken, chairs scattered. It looked abandoned for years, yet in the shadows, it felt safer than the open street. The girl sank onto a cracked bench. Her legs shook, her chest heaved. She wrapped her arms around herself, staring at the floor. She whispered, "They will not stop." Her voice was sharp with fear. "They will hunt until I am theirs again." The human crouched beside her. His eyes searched her face, steady but kind. "Then we must stay ahead of them," he said. His tone carried quiet strength, a strength that made her heart ache. For a moment, silence filled the outpost, broken only by the drip of water somewhere deep inside. The girl trembled, not only from fear but from the weight of secrets she carried. Secrets carved into her flesh, secrets she had never spoken. The human reached into his pack, pulling out a strip of cloth and a small jar. He slid them onto the table, then nodded to her arms. "You are bleeding," he said softly. She glanced down, noticing fresh cuts from the rough escape. But beneath them were older scars, dozens of them, jagged and cruel. She froze, her breath caught, her hands clutched her torn sleeves, pulling them tighter. The human did not push. He waited. His silence was not harsh. It was patient. And that patience broke something inside her. Slowly, with shaking fingers, she loosened the cloth around her arms. The sleeves slid back, revealing. The marks, scars crisscrossed her skin like maps of suffering. Some were deep, others thin, but all carried the story of torment. Strange symbols glowed faintly beneath the skin, lines that seemed burned into her flesh by something unnatural. The human's eyes widened, but he did not flinch. He did not step back. Instead, he leaned closer, studying the patterns, his voice calm. "Who did this?" Her throat tightened. The words came heavy. "The labs," she whispered. "They cut me, tested me, changed me. When I did not obey, they called me broken. When I fought, they called me dangerous. In the end, they threw me away." Her body shook as she spoke, her eyes filled with tears. For years, she had carried the shame of those scars. The whispers of the traitors, the laughter of buyers who turned away. To her, the scars meant she was worthless. The human slowly reached out. His hand brushed the edge of her arm, gentle, careful, as if touching something precious. "These are not signs of weakness," he said. "They feared you. That is why they marked you. That is why they chained you." She blinked, confusion filling her face. "Feared me?" she asked. "I was nothing to them, less than nothing." He shook his head. "No one wastes chains on nothing." His voice was firm. "Whatever they did to you, whatever they saw, it was enough to terrify them." Her heart pounded. His words struck her deeper than the scars themselves. She had never thought of her wounds as anything but shame. Could it be true that they meant more? She lowered her head, whispering, "If you knew what was inside me, you would run too." The human did not let go of her arm. His eyes locked onto hers. "Then tell me," he said gently. "Tell me what you carry." Her body shook. She wanted to refuse, wanted to bury the truth. But the warmth of his hand, the steady calm in his voice, broke her silence. She lifted her shirt slightly, revealing more scars across her ribs, glowing faint lines that pulsed like veins of light. "They said something grew in me," she whispered. "Something not meant to exist, a power they could not control. Sometimes I feel it burning inside. I try to stop it, I try to stay small, but they always knew." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "They called me weapon. They called me curse. Then they abandoned me when I failed their tests." The human's brow furrowed. His hand rested over hers, steady, firm. "You are not a curse," he said. His voice cut through the silence like fire through the dark. "You are not what they made you believe." Her chest shook. She wanted to believe, but fear chained her heart. "If it comes out, if I cannot stop it, you will see I am dangerous." He squeezed her hand tighter. "Then I will stand beside you." His voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. Before she could answer, a sound shattered the quiet. A crash outside the outpost. Shadows moved near the windows. The hunters had found them. The girl gasped, panic rushing through her. She felt the burn inside her veins, the strange heat of the power she feared. Her voice trembled. "They will not stop. They will take me back." The human rose, his weapon ready, his voice steady. "Not while I breathe." The girl stared at him, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. No one had ever spoken for her like that. No one had ever stayed. And as the hunters closed in, she realized that the scars on her skin no longer told the story of her suffering. They were the marks of something waiting to awaken. And this human, this stranger who never let go of her hand, might be the one to face it with her. The night was no longer quiet. Outside the broken outpost, the air trembled with the hum of engines. Shadows moved like ghosts between the trees and walls. The hunters had arrived. Not just one or two, but a full team, armored, armed, and ready. Inside, the girl stood frozen. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table. The power within her stirred again, soft at first, like a whisper under her skin. She clenched her jaw, trying to keep it buried. She was afraid. Afraid of the hunters, but even more afraid of herself. The human glanced through a crack in the wall. His eyes narrowed as he counted the shapes moving outside. He pulled a small device from his belt and tapped it. It buzzed once, a signal sent, but no reply came. They were on their own. They're surrounding us, he said calmly, turning to her. "No more running, not tonight." Her heart pounded. "They want me alive," she whispered. "But they won't care if you die." He walked over to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. His grip was strong but not heavy. "Then we make sure neither of us dies." A loud knock slammed against the metal door, followed by a mechanical voice. "You are harboring stolen property. Surrender the girl, and you will not be harmed." The human stepped forward, his voice sharp. "She's not property, and I don't believe your lies." The girl stared at him, her eyes wide. In her whole life, no one had spoken like that for her, not even once. Her hands shook, the energy in her blood rising again, pulsing stronger now. More voices outside, boots hitting the ground, Orders shouted, weapons readying. The human opened a metal box near the back of the room. Inside were 2 old smoke grenades and a narrow tunnel that led beneath the outpost. "I'll hold them for as long as I can," he said. "You escape through this tunnel." She shook her head quickly. "No, you don't understand. If they get close, I might lose control. I could hurt you." He looked at her with steady eyes. "If you don't leave, they'll hurt both of us." Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to argue, to refuse, but deep inside she knew he was right. Still, her body would not move. Her feet were stone. Suddenly, the door blasted open with a roar. Smoke and light filled the room. The hunters stormed inside, metal boots striking hard against the ground. The human tossed the grenades. Smoke poured through the room, thick and gray. He turned and shouted, "Go!" The girl crawled into the tunnel, heart racing. Her ears filled with shouts, shots, and the heavy pounding of her own blood. She reached the end of the tunnel and burst out into the cold night air. Gasping, coughing, she turned to look back. A flash of red lit up the windows of the outpost. Her mind screamed, "He's still in there." She started to run, but her legs stopped. The power inside her now burned like fire. Her chest rose and fell with sharp gasps. It wanted to come out. "No," she whispered. "Not again." But this time she wasn't alone. She turned around, her eyes glowing faintly with the strange light beneath her skin. And then she ran. Not away, but back toward the outpost. Inside, the human was cornered, his weapon low on power, his arms raised as 4 hunters moved in around him. "The lead," Hunter growled. "You protected her. You will pay for that." Just as they stepped forward, a wall behind them cracked, then shattered. The girl burst in, eyes blazing. Her body moved like the wind. The power she feared now flowed through her hands with a scream. Energy shot from her palms, not wild but focused. It struck one hunter, sending him flying. Another raised his weapon, but it melted in his grip before he could fire. The human stared, stunned, not in fear but in awe. She stood between him and the hunters now, her hands shaking, her heart roaring. "You will not take me again," she shouted. Her voice was not broken anymore. The last 2 hunters hesitated, then retreated, dragging their wounded with them. Within seconds, the outpost fell silent again. Smoke lingered in the air. The girl dropped to her knees, her body trembling. The power faded, but it had left her exhausted. The human rushed to her side, pulling her into his arms. She didn't fight it, she didn't flinch, he whispered. "You saved me." She nodded slowly, her voice barely there. "I thought I would hurt you." "You didn't," he said softly. "You protected me." She looked up at him, her eyes shining with both tears and light. "They will come again, stronger next time." He helped her to her feet, still holding her gently. "Then we'll be ready." Outside, the night was quiet again, but everything had changed. She had unleashed the power inside her, not to destroy but to protect, and the human, he had stayed, even when it meant facing death. As they walked away from the ruined outpost, hand in hand, the stars above felt a little brighter, and for the first time she no longer feared what lived inside her, because someone had believed in her enough to stand and fight. The forest was quiet as they moved through it. The moonlight filtered through twisted branches above, painting pale, silver lines across the dirt path. The girl leaned against the human, her steps slow, her body weak after using her power to save him. Her strength had faded like smoke in the wind, but he never let her fall. His arms stayed around her shoulders, steady and warm. They reached a cave hidden behind moss-covered rocks. The human ducked inside first, checking for danger, then helped her in. The air was cool, damp, and silent. Safe. For now, he started a small fire near the entrance. Its glow lit the cave walls, showing jagged stone and tiny insects that skittered away from the heat. She sat beside the flames, arms wrapped around herself. Her skin still glowed faintly, the strange lines along her arms pulsing slowly. He handed her a ration bar and some water. She took it without a word, chewing slowly. Her body needed food, but her mind was full of fear. The fire crackled. The human finally broke the silence. "Do you feel it?" She nodded. It's still inside me, she whispered. But quiet now. He looked at her carefully. You controlled it, he said. You saved us both. Her eyes dropped to the floor. I didn't control it. I only stopped holding it back. He tilted his head. Maybe that's what you needed to do all along. Her heart thudded at his words. She had spent years afraid of that fire, believing it would destroy everything she touched. But when the hunters came, it hadn't destroyed. It had protected, she whispered. They told me I was dangerous. They said I would kill without meaning to. He shook his head slowly. They were wrong. Her voice cracked. What if they weren't? What if I lose control next time? The human looked into the fire, then into her eyes. Then I'll be there to bring you back, he said. She turned away, blinking fast. Her hands trembled in her lap. The scars glowed softly, like stars under her skin. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small device, a scanner. May I? He asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded. He held the scanner near her arm. A soft hum filled the air, blue lights dancing across her skin. The scanner beeped. He frowned, staring at the screen. It's not just energy, he said slowly. It's alive. Something inside you is growing, learning. She looked at him sharply. Alive? He nodded. Your power isn't just a weapon. It's something else. Something they couldn't control, so they feared it. She sat still, stunned. A part of her had always believed her body was broken, that something unnatural had been forced into her. But this was different. What if it's not a curse? She whispered. What if it's part of me? He smiled softly. Then it means you're more than what they made you. Outside, a branch snapped. The girl tensed, but the human didn't move. Just an animal, he said calmly. His eyes returned to hers. We'll leave at dawn. There's a contact of mine 3 days from here. If we reach him, he can hide us off-world. She nodded slowly, but her mind was full of thoughts. As the fire burned lower, she closed her eyes. But sleep did not come. Inside her chest, something stirred, warm, steady, powerful. It no longer felt like a monster in her veins. It felt like a heart she had never listened to. She stood quietly and walked to the edge of the cave, looking up at the stars. Her arms still glowed, faint but beautiful. He joined her, silent, watching the sky too. You're changing, he said gently. I'm becoming, she replied softly. They stood in silence for a long time. Then she turned to him. You could have left me in that market. I didn't want to, he said. Not then. Not now. Her voice was soft, full of wonder. Why me? He shrugged. Because no one else did. Her eyes filled with tears. But this time they weren't from fear or sadness. They were from something new. Something she had never tasted before. Hope. In the shadows of that forgotten cave, she began to understand the truth. The power inside her was not made to destroy. It was made to protect, to survive, to rise. And now, with someone at her side who never gave up, she would learn to use it, not just for herself, but for others like her. Lost, broken, unwanted, because she was no longer alone, and she was no longer afraid. The morning sun broke through the forest leaves, painting golden light across the path ahead. The girl walked beside the human, her step steady now. Her body still ached, but the fear that once lived in her chest had grown quiet. They had survived the night. The hunters were behind them, but not gone. The threat still lingered in the distance like a storm waiting to return. She looked down at her arm, where faint lines still glowed beneath her skin. They didn't scare her anymore, not like before. Now they felt like a part of her story. Not a curse, not a wound, but a mark of survival. The human glanced at her with a soft smile. We're halfway there, he said. Another 2 days to the outpost. She nodded, her hand tightening around the small pack he had given her. And then we leave this planet, she whispered. For good. He gave a short nod. If the contact's still alive, he owes me a favor. Her eyes turned toward the trees, her voice soft. I've never left a world before. I don't know what's out there. His voice was calm. You'll be safe out there. She turned to look at him, her brow furrowed. And what about you? He paused, then answered quietly. I didn't plan that far. A silence stretched between them, not heavy, just uncertain. She didn't want to ask, but the question had lived inside her for days. Will you stay with me? She asked. After all this? His answer came without delay. If you'll have me. She looked away quickly, blinking back the tears. His words reached into the deepest part of her, the place that had never felt wanted, never felt chosen. But before she could speak again, a sound rang out in the distance, high, sharp, mechanical. The girl froze. Drones, she whispered. They've found us. The human pulled her into the trees. Moving quickly, his grip on her hand was strong, just like it had been on the day they first met. They ran through thick roots and twisted branches. The forest blurred around them. But this time she wasn't just running out of fear. She was running with someone, not from something. The drone appeared above, scanning the ground with a blue beam. She clenched her fists, the power inside her sparking again. I can bring it down, she said, voice sharp. He shook his head. Not yet, it'll call others. They moved deeper into the forest, breath short, hearts pounding. Then the drone gave a loud alarm, a high-pitched screech that echoed for miles. She turned to him. They'll be here soon. He nodded. Then we make our stand. They reached a rocky cliff edge overlooking a small valley. The trees here thinned, and the sky stretched wide. Below, they could see shadows moving. Hunter ships, closing in fast. The girl looked at her hands, the glowing lines now alive with energy. She felt the pulse in her chest. Hot but focused, she took a deep breath. No more running. He smiled faintly. We fight together. She stepped forward, lifting her arms. The energy inside her flowed smoothly now, not wild, not angry. It was calm, steady, hers. The first hunter ship came in low, weapons charged. She raised her hand and a beam of light shot from her fingers, striking the ship's core. It exploded in midair, scattering fire across the valley. Another ship rose behind it, but the human fired his weapon, hitting its wing. Together they held the high ground, pushing back every attack. The hunters shouted below, confused, afraid. They're retreating, he said, eyes scanning the sky. She nodded slowly, breathing hard. They know now. I'm not their weapon. He turned to her. You're free. Her eyes welled with tears. Because of you? He stepped closer, voice soft. No, because of you. You chose to fight. You chose to live. She looked at his hand, the same hand that had reached through her cage in that terrible market. The hand that had never let go, not through fire, not through fear. She took it again, without hesitation, as they watched the enemy disappear into the distance. She leaned against him, her voice trembling. What now? He smiled. Now we find a new home, one where no one can sell you, chain you, or fear what you are. She nodded slowly, her eyes locked on the horizon. And what will I be there? He looked at her with warmth in his voice. Whatever you want. The wind blew gently through the trees, carrying away the last echoes of battle. She had been abandoned, hurt, marked as broken. But now, she stood free, loved, and unafraid, because someone, just one human, had offered her a hand and never let go.